Greetings everybody, hello and welcome along to the fourth event in the 2025 Formula Regional Middle East Championship. Now moving back over once again to the Marina circuit, the meeting place of champions, and we have got two qualifying sessions for you this Friday afternoon that will set the grid for races 1 and 3 in this fourth weekend of the championship. Hello everybody, Jake Sanson here with you once again in the commentary box. It'll be a really interesting battle this time because for the fourth round, not only are we back to the Marina Grand Prix circuit that we know and love, but it's at a very different time of the day. The track temperatures are going to be a bit higher than they were for the previous encounter, and as you can see, it's a little bit overcast with strong winds over the Marina circuit. There's not that much of a chance of rain, although it is potential if the wind continues at the velocity and speed that it currently is. The drivers are starting to head out onto the circuit. 15 minutes, of course, for the two sessions. Get your questions and your comments in on the live stream, because qualifying is the perfect time to answer some of them. I've just had a fantastic time during the second practice session for the F4 Middle East Championship, spending the entire hour session as a guest of the RHGP squad. That feature is going to be part of the Race 1 build-up. Middle East Championship coverage this weekend. We're going to take you behind the scenes during a typical practice session. Looking forward to seeing what you all think of that. I certainly enjoyed myself. The drivers now heading out for the first of two sessions. It's going to be a really interesting battle out on the course. We are in for a very intriguing run to pole position. It's been an interesting change up from round 3 to round 4. Just to inform you that we've got two new drivers on the grid for the fourth weekend in the championship. Théophile Nahel, we say goodbye to him as the Santalok driver now retreats back to Europe, ready in preparation for his FIA Formula 3 campaign on the Formula 1 circuit. But his place in the team has been taken by Nikita Bedrin, who we know very well indeed from his previous escapades out here in the Middle East. He of course raced here in the F4 Championship in the past, a very talented young competitor. He of course raced in the FIA Formula 3 Championship of course as well for the last 2 seasons, so it's going to be interesting to see what he can continue to do. And the battles have been really exciting to see how he has continued on. So he's come here very much last minute to drop in and do a Formula Regional Middle East Championship event. He's quite happy to do so, and certainly very motivated to come away with a top 5 result if he can do so. The other man in, you're watching him as he goes around the circuit, the Italian driver Matteo De Palo has gone into the grid for this weekend, and the Italian driver is competing this weekend for Evans Grand Prix, the 17-year-old from Rome. Of course, racing in the competition. He's going to be racing in the European Championship of Formula Regional with the Trident team, having raced with Santalok last season. But he's taking the opportunity to do a couple of rounds here to continue his development ready for the remainder of the season. Apart from that, pretty much everything is as it was last time out. We're currently watching Ernesto Rivera, the Red Bull Junior for the Pinnacle Motorsport team, and Chu Yanpu, his Chinese teammate, just bearing themselves up and getting themselves up to speed. Two of the Grand Prix related young guns, of course, Ernesto Rivera being masterminded by the Red Bull operation, and there is Chu Yanpu, the Chinese talent, who is part of the Mercedes F1 Young Driver Program. In fact, this weekend we've got 3 drivers from the Mercedes F1 program. The other 2, of course, are Dorian Pain, the French driver, who is also in this grid, and in F4 we have Alex Powell. As the competitors are getting themselves up to speed, just to give you a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the nitty-gritty of qualifying. You can see for yourself that it's not exactly bone dry sunshine. The wind has definitely picked up over the last half hour. It's got very strong indeed. There is not scheduled to be any rain over the course of the circuit, but looking at those clouds, there is a chance that it could happen, and when it rains in the United Arab Emirates, it really rains. So hopefully it's not going to affect too much over the course of the qualifying session. But it'll be really fascinating to see who gets the pole position. Through the practice sessions so far, the Frenchman Evan Gilter and the ART Grand Prix team that are bidding to become champions on their first appearance in the Middle East are certainly going about it the right way. They had a lot of pace in the previous practice sessions, so they look pretty strong and reasonably competitive all the way through the week so far. They had 2 practice sessions yesterday of 1 hour in duration, and then a half-hour session earlier today. And now, of course, they go into the 2 15-minute sessions for qualifying. So it'll be interesting to see how things continue out on the circuit. Just to reiterate the comments I have picked up from a Ashbaj, who says not exactly bone dry, so it's wet then. I wouldn't say it's wet, but it's certainly greasy. The oils in the tarmac, when the temperatures go up and the track temperature cools down, it becomes a little bit trickier, especially when you add into it that the wind has picked up, so the sand has started to blow over the circuit at some parts as well. So although it isn't wet, to some of the drivers it will feel a little bit wet. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it progresses. So it'll be interesting to note how the competitors run. And just to correct Ashbajwaj, who says there were no practice sessions yesterday. There were no official practice sessions yesterday, certainly none that are part of the official times, but they had 2 testing sessions yesterday, which are known as unofficial practice, and those were both of 1 hour in length. So Alcyone asks a very good question. Is Q1 for the grid of race 1 and Q2 for race 3? Absolutely correct. Yes, so the 2 qualifying sessions that we have are 15 minutes in duration. They will set the grids as you mentioned. So Q1 is for race 1, Q2 is for race 3. How do we set the grid for race 2? Well, we take the finishing results of race 1 and we reverse the top 10 finishers. So whoever finishes 10th gets to start from pole, and whoever finishes in 10th whoever finishes in first, I should say, gets to start from 10th position. The times are already starting to tick down. Evan Gilter blasts in at 2 minute 3.9. Some of the other drivers are still warming up the tyres and brakes. So Yugo Bugachukwu second at the moment from Alzo Deligny and Jin Nakamura. And then we have Taito Kato, the ALT Grand Prix driver, just in front of James Headley. Although up to the top spot now comes Wang Shengwei on a 2 minute 1.005. So that tells you quite a lot in the fact that Wang Shengwei is not going to be the fastest driver in the qualifying session easily. I'll just add easily, just in case he somehow magically manages to do so. But certainly on present pace and form, it hasn't happened so far. So I would expect to see a little bit more from the drivers in terms of their raw lap time pace. As we go into this 4th round of the championship, it's currently been not one-way traffic, but certainly a strong campaign for Evan Gilter, who is currently 39 points ahead of Britain's Freddie Slater. Brandon Badua, 3rd in the standings on 126, 1 point ahead of Théophile Nal, who of course is no longer racing with us this year. So it is a 3-man battle for the championship now. Evan Gilter of France, Freddie Slater of Great Britain, and Brandon Badua of Italy. Rashid Al-Dhaheri has 108 points, 3 more than the American driver Yugo Bugachukwu, and then the battle for the top 10 rages thick and fast. It's going to be a combination of Alzo Deligny, Jin Nakamura, Kanato Lee, and Taito Kato. Of course, now Ernesto Rivera has the chance to be best of the rest after the Mexican driver, his colleague Jesse Carrasquedo, has pulled away from the championship after the first 2 weekends at Yas Marina. He was, of course, replaced in that team by the Japanese talent Hyo Yamakoshi, and the other driver who was part of the grid for the first 2 weekends, who now is no longer driving, is Giovanni Mascio, and he was obviously not replaced in the team formally because Hyo Yamakoshi came in to replace, I guess, technically speaking, both Jesse Carrasquedo and the man up in the top spot. Now we're getting the decent lap times in. Matteo De Palo's put in a 1:58.9, so a good run from the Italians so far. Matteo De Palo looking to put himself into a pole position time. So let's see if things continue. Now Alyssa wants to know, why is F4 qualifying not today? So an interesting situation. Usually they are on the same day, but the way that the timetable has been structured this weekend, we are sharing the circuit with the Asian Le Mans series, so it is slightly different to the timetable that we had for the first 2 weekends at Yas Marina. And because their 2 races over the weekend are 4 hours in duration, they've obviously had to stagger the timetable to make sure that the drivers have plenty of time between races and between sessions as well. You can't force them all to compress it very close to time. So it's been spaced out just a little bit more flexibly than the previous 2 events at Yas Marina. So qualifying for Formula Regional is today. Qualifying for F4 Middle East is first thing tomorrow morning. And then we'll have 2 races tomorrow, 1 each for the championship, and then 2 races each on Sunday. Hope that made sense. If it didn't, I clearly wasn't telling it right. So at the moment, Chuyan Pu has gone quickest, a 1:52. And that was the quickest time that we've had so far, although it's quickly been deleted due to track limits at turn 16. So Hyo Yamakoshi has now got the fastest time, a 1:50.801. Kai Yanani's banged in a 1:52.1 as he goes across the line. There he is. So Kai Dodianani just finishing things off. Oh no, sorry, that's his teammate, Matteo De Palo, who's just gone quickest of all in the number 8 Evans Grand Prix car, although I spoke too soon because now it's Evan Gilter who's gone top spot. 1:49.944, fastest in sector 1, 2 and 3. So Evan Gilter, quickest of all for the moment. Yugo Chukwu second in front of Taito Kato now, and then it is Enzo Deligny. Up to second comes Freddie Slater. Now this is going to be an interesting battle between Gilter and Slater. In the first weekend of the championship, of course, Slater had it all his own way when things were on this layout, the Grand Prix circuit. It was when we got to the corkscrew layout that things changed in Gilter's favour. So now things will be very interesting to see which of the two of them gets the better of it. And Freddie Slater's got a 39-point deficit to make up. It'll be fascinating to see who gets the best of it. So Rory wants to know what the timetable is looking like for the LaSalle round, with it being the support for the World Endurance Championship. You can find that out on the website, formulamiddleeast.com. So make sure you find out the timetable for the 5th round of the championship. It is now on the website, so you'll be able to plan your week's broadcast viewing accordingly. So the gap between Gilter and Slater is just 1/10 of a second at the moment. 4 minutes to go in the session. Everybody now starting to find the limit. Kanato Lee's doing a great job. 3rd position for the ART Grand Prix driver, with Yugo Chukwu 4th and Taito Kato 5th. So in the top 5, 3 of them are for the ART Grand Prix squad. Amazing just how much work they are doing on their debut. So Andrew pointing out on the stream has a good question. What kind of rain tyres do the teams have if it rains? Do they have intermediates and wets? No, they only have wets. So they only have one choice of wet tyre. And I believe it is the full wet, if it so happens to be the case. So as far as I'm aware, they only have one choice of compound, and it is full wet. You can't really take a risk on intermediates if it gets torrential. So it's the better of both worlds, essentially, to go full wet rather than intermediate, as far as I'm aware. If anyone wants to correct me on that has the facts, then please do, but that is my understanding of the ruling. Yugo Chukwu, 3rd position at the moment, moving his way ahead of Kanato Lee. Rashid out ahead, he's got ahead of Taito Kato as well. So some good performances. So Sharonian says it's very fun to see Dorian Bain, member of the Iron Dames, on the track in the same weekend as her fellow dames are in Asian Le Mans. Yes, they've been doing a lot of their track walks and a lot of their physical training together. And there were a lot of conversations between them all at Dubai Autodrome last week, so good to see them all together. Mr. Idiot, bless you. A little bit degradational on the live stream there, but clearly a name that's chosen with personal pride. What is the layout this week? Well, it's the one that you're all familiar with. It's the Grand Prix layout that you're familiar with in Formula 1, so we do get the full version of the Marina circuit, although of course the pit straight is not this one. This is where the Asian Le Mans teams are based, but we get the support pit lane on the back of the circuit. So turn 1 for us is actually turn 9 for Formula 1 fans. Gilter still on top with that lap of 1:49.944. Everybody's going about the 150.0, 150.2 mark. Slater's gone slightly quicker, 150.081, but not quick enough to overturn Evan Gilter as we watch the Jack attack back in action. Jack beaten. There is the number 6. That's the pinnacle of Hyo Yamakoshi, the Japanese talent, who's really been putting on a great show so far, despite only having one weekend behind the wheel at Dubai. It's going to be a really interesting situation for the contenders. Connor Edwards actually asks a reasonably theoretical question. What is the likelihood, though, that they'd have to use wet tyres in the Middle East? Well, certainly if anybody was watching last year, we had a race which really did have a torrential downpour at night here at Marina. So it was night and raining. So very tricky indeed for all of the competitors. That was a proper motor race. I think that was the F4 Championship that gave us that last year. But certainly it does happen. If you think that there's no rain in the Middle East, think again, because it can rain very heavy here indeed when it rains. So it's not likely, but it is possible. And when it rains, boy, do we know about it. And looking at that sky, it's certainly looking like rain could happen over the course of the weekend. Whether it happens this afternoon and whether it affects either of our qualifying sessions this afternoon or tomorrow morning for the F4 remains to be seen, but it is a potential possibility. So I think the two leading drivers, Gilter and Slater, have pretty much shown us what they can do. Drivers are starting to come back into the pits already as Wang Xiongwei finishes off the lap rather than crossing the line. He actually bails into the pits. Lenny wants to know, are these cars quicker or on par with F4? The lap time difference is about 8 to 10 seconds depending on the circuit. So these cars are definitely quicker. The drivers have been telling me there's barely any difference between them in a straight line, but it's in the corners where there's a massive difference. There's not a lot of downforce that the F4 cars have by comparison to these cars, which are heavier and faster. Therefore, there's a lot more natural downforce. So these cars are a good 8 to 10 seconds, depending on race circuit, quicker than the F4 car. Checkered flag is out, as you can see for yourself. Just waiting to see if there's any personal changes. A lot of personal bests in Sector 1. For Kanato Lee, Taito Kato, Onzo Deligny, Brandon Badua and Liu Che, who's in the top 10, by the way. The Origin car of Liu Che, currently in the top 10, or at least he was. He's just had his lap deleted for track limits, unfortunately. So that's rather unfortunate, because he engaged track limits at turn 16. And that drops him, oh no, that does drop him to 9th place. So it's no change to his position as Evan Gilter comes into the pits. It looks as though pole position is banked. Although there could be a couple of changes in the top 6. Rashid Al Daheri is on a personal best in the second sector. Can he go any quicker at all to try and get onto the second row of the grid? No, 5th position is all that Rashid Al Daheri can come away with. So Slater remains second, so the championship contenders will be on the front row of the starting grid. Fascinating stuff. Gilter, pole position. Slater, second. Yugawaga Chukwu, third from Kanato Lee. Rashid Al Daheri, Onzo Deligny, Taito Kato, Brandon Badua, Lulu Che, and Akshay Bora in the top 10. So some really interesting lap times coming in then. And it'll be a very interesting opening race then, because of course the race is going to be taking place earlier in the day than we had in race 1 on the Grand Prix layout when it was night time, and obviously the temperatures were quite low. They're going to be a lot higher for this 4th round of the championship. So a lot of the practice has been trying to get these cars to behave with a warmer track temperature than they had for the first round. Fascinating to see how the teams are continuing to evolve and develop. Well, we have ourselves a fascinating top 10. Quite a few drivers in there that we don't normally get to see. But there is the result at the end of the first qualifying session. Evan Gilter, pole position for Freddie Slater, Yugawaga Chukwu and Kanato Lee, then Rashid Al Daheri, Onzo Deligny and Taito Kato from Brandon Badua. Liu Che did a great job, the Chinese driver, 9th position. And then it is Akshay Bora in 10th place, ahead of Nikita Bedrin, guest driver, in front of Jack Beaton. Then Matteo De Palos, the new boys, 11th and 13th. And Esther Nevada, 14th, in front of Aaron Cameron and Hio Yamakoshi. Jin Nakamura really struggling in that qualifying session, 17th for him only. Dorian Bang, 18th place, much better for her than in Dubai. Aditi Kulkarni, Kai Dadianani, James Headley and Finley Green doing a much better job than we've seen from him in the first 3 rounds. Everett Stack in front of Chu Yan Pu, really struggling this time. Then Alex Sawyer in front of Yaroslav Vezalaho and Wang Shengwei. So really exciting battle then in qualifying. Oh, looks like we've had an engine failure. An engine failure on the back straight for one of the RHGP cars. Now, that is a lot of smoke coming out of that car, so one of the drivers is definitely not going to be taking the start of Q2. That is a very dramatic end to qualifying for one of the RSGP cars. They finished the session. We now need to find out who it is, but that is a very big amount of smoke that's come out of the back of the car. I think that's actually Bora's car. No, it's not. It's Jin Nakamura. That tells us why he was so off the pace then. So Jin Nakamura, 17th in Q1 and will not compete in Q2. Looks like an engine failure. My goodness, the Japanese driver, a lot of bad luck. Well, poor Jin Nakamura. I did wonder why he was so far from the pace of the other drivers in the team. Take a look at Chukwu going 150.2, Onzo Deligny 155, and then Akshay Bora at 150.6. And then, yes, Jin Nakamura all the way back in 151.0. That's a long way from the pace of his teammates. Now we know why. So, big disaster then for the Japanese driver as his engine blows at the end of Q1. You never really see that often in the world of Formula Regional, certainly not out here in the Middle East. But that means that Jin Nakamura is going to be starting the second race well, he's going to be starting a long way back from the third race, from the back of the grid, because he'll not get out for qualifying. But he'll start the first race from 17th, and now it's all hands to the spanners for the team that's trying to win the championship, RSGP, as they will desperately try overnight to get that car ready to go again for racing tomorrow. Well, that is drama before the qualifying session for Q2 even begins. Disastrous for Jin Nakamura. So that is now very much game over for Jin ahead of qualifying. We're going to take a few more of your comments and your questions. Mr. Idiot once again wants to know, what kind of fizzy do they have when they get busy? Because most of the drivers are not old enough to drink. And of course, the law in the Middle East, because of religion, means that alcohol is not permitted. You're absolutely right. So there is one type of fizzy that they get busy with on the podium in both categories. And as far as I'm aware, it's a very nice type of fizzy apple. So there you go. Even I can have a swig. Not that there's any left for me by the time the podium ceremony is over, of course. Now that's interesting. Engine cover off for Freddie Stater. Only a tenth of a second back from Evan Gilter. But they clearly feel the need to make some changes. One set of tyres goes off, another set of tyres goes on. But look at that. The Formula Regional Middle East Championship qualifying 2 start time to be confirmed on the timing screen. It's normally 10 minutes, but they've obviously got to recover Jin Nakamura's car. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if the marshals now have to go out on the circuit and do some work to tidy up some of the oil that could well have been left out on the circuit. So some rubber dust might need to go out onto the circuit, and that's at a critical breaking point on the track as well. So getting ready for Q2, which will set the grid for race 3. But the championship contenders, Evan Gilter and Freddie Stater, who have 3 wins and 2 wins respectfully over the championship, they will be the ones battling again for pole position for race number 3 this weekend. So it could be very interesting. Well, the random questions are starting to come in. Joshua Wilson has found the most random of questions. Were you in a movie called The Limehouse Golem? My word, you do your research. I actually was. Yes, in my days when I was desperately trying to earn a little extra cash, I was a television and movie extra back in the day. So I ended up in all sorts of things. I think I did an episode of the Guy Ritchie-inspired television series Snatch. There was definitely Limehouse Golem. That was a great film to be in. Good fun. And yeah, a couple of other television shows. But my word, Josh, you really do your research. Good for you. So there is Liu Che. Very impressed indeed with the Chinese driver. Don't forget that this is a team that has spent the last 3 years solidly at the back when they were known as R&B Racing. They've never really had any points to speak of over the last few years. Last time out in Dubai, they scored with Liu Che. And now the Chinese driver's in the top 10 for Q1. Right, we've got a confirmation. Q2 will start at 15:08 local time. That is in 25 seconds. So we are going to start relatively impressive. So Yuga Wuga Chukwu for the McLaren Junior operation, and of course for RHGP, looking to try and get himself into the top 5 of the Drivers' Championship. He's only 3 points back from Rashid Al-Daheri. So a really interesting situation for the contenders as we get ourselves ready for the start. When that red light at the end of the pit lane becomes green, which it does now, we are under starters orders then for qualifying. So clearly it wasn't that long an operation needed to remove Jin Nakamura's car. So now the qualifying session is underway. And it looks as though not everybody is going to go straight out when the lights go. So an interesting scenario. Right, I just started picking up on Formula Regional, says KLF. What's the points system like? Is it similar to the big guns? To be fair to you, it has changed for this year. It used to be the top 10 that scored points. Now it's the top 12 that scored points from 2025. So it's 30 points for the win, 22 for second, 18 for third. Then it's 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1 down to the 1 point for 12th position. 2 points on the board for pole position. So that is the new point system that we've got ready for the 2025 season. Well, apologies, our camera seems to be having a tiny bit of a meltdown at turn 1. Hopefully that will correct itself. But certainly the drivers are starting to head out onto the circuit once again as we gear ourselves up for more great action out on the course. So as the cars venture out onto the circuit once again, it'll be time to see what happens in this second qualifying session. And don't forget, this one sets the grid for race 3, not for race 2. The race 2 grid is determined by the finishing positions of race 1 tomorrow, with the top 10 finishers reversed in grid positions. So whoever crosses the line in first will start 10th, and then of course conversely whoever finishes 10th will start from pole position. And if they manage to get pole position in this particular Q2, that's 2 points for the championship. So Evan Gilter scores 2 points for the championship with his pole position. That now puts him 41 points ahead of Freddie Slater as opposed to 39. So it'll be into the race tomorrow that will really count for Freddie Slater. And this points overhaul, why has it been done? Well, it's to reward even more points for the driver that takes the victory. 30 points compared to 22. That's an 8-point swing for a race winner. And then there's 4 points difference between second and third, 3 points difference between third and fourth, and fourth and fifth. And then it's 2 points difference between fifth and sixth and seventh, and seventh and eighth, as well as eighth and ninth. And then ninth gets 4 points, and then it's 4, 3, 2, 1 down to 12th. So it does encourage drivers to push for overtakes more. 8 points more than second place to go for the victory. So a win here is really valuable in the regional Middle East. So the competitors are just gearing themselves up again around the circuit, just pounding in the laps, trying to warm up the car. HLW4 wants to know, will any drivers in this year's Formula Regional Middle East be racing in the Italian or Euro F3 Championship this season? Well, of course, FIA Formula 3 is part of the Grand Prix grid, and we know for a fact that Teofil Nal is going to be there. He raced in the first 3 rounds of the championship. Nikita Pedrin, interestingly enough, has popped in for this round of the championship, having raced in FIA Formula 3 for the last 2 seasons. And of course, as Connor Edwards rightfully points out, Yuga Chukwu is going to be in the Prema team in Formula 3 this year as well, having won at the Macau Grand Prix at the tail end of November. So next time out in the sale could well be the last 3 races you'll ever see Yuga Chukwu drive in Formula Regional. Mind you, we've said that about Nikita Pedrin in the past, and here he is popping up to put on another great show. So, Mr. Idiot would like to know what's been the favourite race of the season so far for the bloke in the commentary box. I actually really enjoyed race 1 in Dubai. Yuga Chukwu putting in such a tough effort to hold off Brando Madura and Evan Gilter for a very tough race. That was a really interesting encounter for me. Not all the races have been nail-biting to the ragged edge in Formula Regional Middle East, but you really do get to see drivers working these tyres hard in this. Don't forget, this is a championship that, while it doesn't always have you on the edge of your seat every single corner of every single lap, you do get to learn a lot about how the drivers are developing and progressing on their route up the ladder. So certainly in Formula Regional this year, Dubai Race 1 was a particularly entertaining one. You got to see a lot from Yuga Chukwu. A yellow flag at turn 9, that is turn 1 for us. So something has happened up at the first corner. I'm trying to see out the window of my commentary box to see if somebody has stopped the car out at the marshal post. I think there is someone stationary there, and it's full course yellow as a result. So we've got somebody off the road down at turn 1 for us. Turn 9 is the official name of the corner. So I don't know exactly who it is, but we're under full course yellows, which means we're not going to have a lot of time to warm up the cars ready for the fast lap. So obviously everybody now reduces in speed. There is the full course yellow, but who's it for? We need to see what's going on down at turn 9 and which car is stationary. So apparently the car number 50, that's James Headley, is under investigation for possibly crossing the pit exit demarcation line. You're not supposed to do that. So clearly it's been a difficult situation for the drivers, particularly for someone of the calibre of James Headley, getting into the Formula Regional and to Yas Marina for the very first time. A very difficult situation. Motorsport Madison would like to know, what's been your favourite track so far? Oh, well, there's the reason. What is going on at RHGP? Because that's the second breakdown for them. RHGP again, and it's red flags now, red flags. So we've got red flags with just under 9 minutes left of the session. Well, big drama as the session is red flagged. So that's 2 cars from the RHGP team that have conked out within minutes of each other. First Jin Nakamura and now Akshay Bora. Big drama in this qualifying session. Red flag in the second qualifying, and the clock has stopped at 8 minutes 51 seconds remaining. But I cannot believe it's happened to RHGP twice First for Jin Nakamura, and then for Akshay Bora. That is the mother of all bad luck. So the drivers make their way back down pit road again. Wow, very difficult for the team to now pick themselves up from this. They've only got Arnaud Deligny and Yugo Mugachukwu left to try and go for the pole position. Everybody else retreating back into pit lane. Not a single flying lap was done by that point. Well, it just looks to me, Xavier Herrera wanting to know what happened. Your guess is as good as mine. It just looks as though the car has broken down on Akshay Bora in much the same way as it did for Jin Nakamura. I can only guess that Nakamura's breakdown at the end of Q1 was an engine failure, because it certainly looked like one. But for Akshay Bora, we have no idea. We've only seen the car stationary. We didn't see how it became stationary. So, difficult there to understand what's happened there. Well, big disaster then for the RSGP team. So now at least everybody is going to be trying their best to work their way up the ladder. It means that the last two positions on the grid are going to be held by Jin Nakamura and Akshay Bora, because neither of them are going to get a lap time under their belt. So the pit lane becomes busy again. Unfortunately, our cameras didn't pick up what happened to Akshay Bora, because you're not expecting to see a car break down in turn one when it's still warming up tyres and brakes at the first corner. So I totally understand on that one, but yeah, we're under red flag conditions for the second qualifying session of the Formula Regional Middle East Championship 2025 Round 4. Session will be resumed at 3:17. That's in 25 seconds time again. So clearly they only needed to reset things after the full course yellow to make sure that everybody could have an equal chance of going for the pole position. Expect the whole field to go out en masse in a moment, because they've only got 8 minutes and 51 seconds to get the pole position time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Watch them all go out together. Engine revs rise, green light goes. Actually, I'm surprised. I thought they would all go together, but they have been a little bit more, well, you can see the urgency to get everybody out. So they've not got long to get this lap time in. And for quite a few of the drivers, that red flag is going to compromise everybody. So the current positions, as Rory Tenkin wants to know, technically speaking, it's pretty much number order, because nobody's set a decent lap time, and none of the laps will count. So now the Q2 restarts once again. Fascinating. Well, the questions keep coming in. I love qualifying because you do get to have a proper chat with people. Madison, Motorsports Madison wants to know, who do I think is getting pole? For the second one, I would have said going into it Evan Schielter, but now that we've had the red flag, that warm-up procedure for the ART Grand Prix driver might not be so easy. This is the kind of opportunity that someone of the likes of Yugo Mugachukwu or Freddie Slater could take advantage of. Maybe even Rashid Al-Daheri could get a pole position lap out of it. There's a lot of urgency for him to do so. He's got himself in a very tricky start to the season. He's got a few podium finishes, of course, but what we'd really like to see from Rashid Al-Daheri on home turf is to go for the victory overall. He's still a rookie in Formula Regional, don't forget, so he's got plenty of time to put a win on the board. He can always come back here for the 2026 campaign and get a win then, but he'd dearly love to win one now. He's close enough to getting a victory that he could finish the job this weekend. So in the background, Ferrari World with the fastest roller coaster on the planet, as they discuss. I've not exactly had the chance yet to go and enjoy it myself. When I do, I'll let you know. I'm sure it'll feel pretty darn fast though. So into the S's to start the flying laps. Car 50 is reported to the stewards for crossing the pit exit demarcation line a second time. Very unfortunate for James Headley. That could put him to the back of the grid. So that's difficult to see how he's done that. He probably would have just put one wheel over the line. That's all it needs to be. So big difficulty there for James Headley. Very unfortunate if he gets a penalty from it, but unfortunately the punishment is very clear for crossing the demarcation line on the pit exit. And if that's what he's done, I'm afraid he's called back to rights. 6 minutes to go then in the qualifying session. Not a lot of time to warm up tyres and brakes. They'll get one more lap to do so, and then in the closing minutes of the session, it'll be gung-ho and go for glory, as the drivers will try and get a pole position lap time out of it. So there is the number 5, that is Aaron Cameron, the Australian driver. Plenty of racing experience, loves getting behind the wheel of a single-seater when he can. His most prominent experience is at the Bathurst 1000, the classic touring car race in Australia on Mount Panorama. So he'll certainly be used to mixing it up wheel to wheel with drivers, probably not quite as close in a single-seater as you can get in Bathurst 1000 races, of course. He'll still be enjoying himself. There's his teammate, Matteo De Palo, for the Evans GP squad. His first appearance in the 2025 season. Still debates as to whether all of the drivers that are here at Yas Marina will be attending the last round of the championship at Lusail. You've got to remember that there's a couple of competitors that are going to be moving away from the Formula Regional Middle East Championship by that point, because they have testing programs that they need to start. So I think we'll basically get the championship contenders, and then whoever is up for the scrap to try and grab a rookie win or some decent championship points to end the season. So De Palo opens up the proceedings with a 1 minute 50.144. That's a pretty good opening gambit for the Italian, but expect that to be beaten pretty quickly. So a fascinating scenario for all of the contenders. Matteo De Palo, Aaron Cameron, Kai Dadianani and Yaroslav Zalaho have opened the accounts. Look at it, it's starting to stack up there at the back straight as drivers are trying to go for that one lap. That's what the red flag has done for the qualifying session. It's given us a bit of a traffic jam as drivers get themselves ready to go for the qualifying lap, and there could be a couple of drivers who get caught out. So it will be fascinating to see how it all continues. Mr. Idiot wants to know how many cameras do we have around the track. I believe for the Yas Marina circuit we have 7 around the track and 2 in pit lane. So should all be able to get up to date with everything. Motorsport Madison says she's glad she's homeschooled. It means she can actually watch. Good for you. My 3 kids are homeschooled as well. Matteo De Palo, Aaron Cameron, Kai Dadianani. That's the leaders at the moment. Rashid Al-Daheri goes fastest of all in Sector 1. 23.30 for him, compared to Evan Gilter on a 23.4, Ugo Chukwu on a 23.4, and Freddie Slater on a 23.33. So Rashid Al-Daheri definitely the fastest of all in Sector 1, but it's all going to be about tidying up the lap. So can Rashid Al-Daheri get an overall pole position? Certainly going well in Sector 1. They're coming down towards Sector 2. Fastest of all, Evan Gilter, 47.6. Let's see if anyone's going to go quicker than that. 47.7 for Taito Kato, 47.8 for Kanato Lee. Let's see if anyone else can get close enough to that mark. 47.8 for Enzo Deligny, 47.7 for Yugo Chukwu. That could end up being a decent lap. What about Freddie Slater? Still not through the timing screen yet. Rashid Al-Daheri has done a 47.9. So Gilter overall looks like he's going to be quicker for the whole lap. So out of the final turn, the lap times are going to tumble out thick and fast. The driver's trying to find some decent lap pace. Gilter goes top, 149.71. Mighty third sector for Evan Gilter. Taito Kato goes second on a 150.00. Hiyu Yamakoshi goes second, then Rashid Al-Daheri goes second. 8 thousandths of a second slower than Gilter. Yugo Chukwu third, Yamakoshi fourth from Kato, Rivera, Lee, Deligny. What about Freddie Slater? Where's he going to be as he comes through? Still waiting for him. He was fastest of all in Sector 2. So Freddie Slater could take the pole position away from Gilter. How is his third sector? Could be interesting. He's gone pole! Freddie Slater, 149.3! What a lap from the Englishman! My goodness! Over a quarter of a second quicker than Evan Gilter. Wow! Freddie Slater, the rookie driver, has responded to that 41-point deficit in perfect style. Looks like 2 bonus points could be going the way of Freddie Slater. He is back, ladies and gentlemen. He may have had a dip on the corkscrew. He may have slumped at Dubai, but Freddie Slater is back. Pole position is potentially his for the moment. Evan Shilter second, Rashid Al-Heri third, then Yuga Chukwu, Hiro Yamakoshi up in 5th position. Great work from the Japanese driver for Pinnacle. Then Taito Kato doing a great job, P6 again. And Estor de Vera much better in 7th place from Kanato Lee. Then Enzo Deligny, Matteo De Palo is 10th. Then it's Jack Beaton, Luduce, Nikita Bedrin, Brandon Badua way back in 14th. That's the effect of the red flag. So it looks like quite a few drivers are getting some lap times deleted for track limits. James Headley is one of them. So too is the number 10 of Nikita Bedrin. We're going to see if there's any improvements to the lap. Rashid Al-Heri goes fastest of all, sector 1, 23.21. Personal best in sector 2. Could be a quick lap from Al-Heri. Can he go quicker still? 149.727. It's not quicker than he's gone before, so he remains in 3rd position. Matteo De Palo goes up to 7th, up to 5th goes Enzo Deligny. That's more like it for the Frenchman. He's really struggled in qualifying this year. Now he goes quicker than Yamakoshi. Billy Green's had his latest lap time deleted. That's unfortunate for him, but it only drops him to 21st rather than to the back. And now James Headley comes up to 17th place. Good run from the British driver, 150.6, but that lap looks like it's been deleted again for track limits. So he's down at the back once more. Getting used to this car is not easy. Everybody is now on their final flying lap. Let's see if we can see any personal bests. Personal best for Nikita Bedrin, 23.4. That's not going to be good enough really to challenge for pole. Might be good enough for top 10 if he can finish the lap. But it really is going to be spectacular to see if anyone can get close to Freddie Slater. The checkered flag is out. 0.3 of a second is a week as far as Formula Regional is concerned. That's a big gap to have over Evan Shilter. So Freddie Slater really has nailed it. Oh, that's not good timing for Slater to nearly trip over Liu Duche in the Origin. And that will have hampered Freddie Slater's lap there, so he won't go quicker on this lap, and he might not need to. But it's not just about going quicker, it's also about the principle of where you place your car. So Freddie Slater might not be particularly happy with the placement of Liu Duche's car on the way through 2 very fast parts of the course. Don't forget that the entry point to that first corner is completely blind. So we're not seeing any more personal bests in the first sector. Everybody is backing down, so I think that's all she wrote, ladies and gentlemen. Freddie Slater is done and dusted in pole position. He cannot be beaten. Evan Shilter is certainly not going to beat him. Rashid Al-Heri isn't either. He's going to pit in. Yugo Chukwu crosses the line. Does not improve from a 149.75. Deligny, good job from the Frenchman. 5th position on the grid this time in front of Hiro Yamakoshi. Great work from the Japanese driver. Yamakoshi-san in P6 in front of Taito Kato, Matteo De Palo, and Estor de Vera. Much better from the Mexican in 9th place. And then Kanato Lee P10th in front of Jack Beaton and Liu Duche. Well, some dramatic performances then in qualifying. It's really counted against Brando Badua, of course, and then there's no lap times on the board for Jin Nakamura or Akshay Bora. So big devastation for the two of them, and it's going to be really, really difficult to see how it continues. Well, difficult to see how it continues. But Freddie Slater has taken 2 points back off Evan Shilter, so it's all square. A pole for Evan Shilter in race 1, a pole for Freddie Slater in race 3, and look at the gap. 0.347 from Shilter in 2nd. Rashid Al-Heri 3rd, from Yugo Chukwu 4th, then Enzo Deligny and Hiro Yamakoshi, Taito Kato, Matteo De Palo, and Estor de Vera, Kanato Lee, and Jack Beaton. 11th position for the Australian. Then it is Liu Duche in front of Nikita Bedrin, Brandon Badua. Then Aaron Cameron 15th in front of Aditya Kulkarni. Much better for Dorian Bain, 17th this time in front of Kai Dadianani. Then Chuyan Pu, so she qualified ahead of her fellow Mercedes junior Everett Stack. Jin Nakamura 21st, somehow managing to get the car out onto the course. I think that might be from the previous session actually, because Jin Nakamura is not on my timing screen. Then Finley Green, Yaroslav Vazalaho, Alex Sawyer, James Headley, and then Akshay Bora unable to put a lap time in, and nor was Jin Nakamura, so I'm not quite sure why Jin Nakamura ended up on the 2nd set of times. So, big drama in qualifying then in round 4, qualifying 1 and 2 for Formula Regional Middle East Championship. Pole position for the first race for Evan Shilter. For the 3rd race, it's Freddie Slater. A pole position apiece, 2 points each. Let the championship battle between the two of them commence. We cannot wait for the weekend. Join us for the races tomorrow and Sunday as Evan Gilter and Freddie Slater go mano a mano.